Greensburg City Council to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. All council members are present and we have a quorum, so we will proceed with business tonight. First up is the approval of our agenda. Does anyone have any additions to it as presented?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Citizen comments? Hearing no citizen comments, we will move on to our consent agenda, which includes the minutes of our April 15th meeting, as well as appropriations ordinance 1267.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda approved. All right, moving on to our items of business tonight. First up is actually a matter
Mayor,
for...
sorry to interrupt. Before you do that, could we maybe do agenda item 2 instead of 1? I think the applicant was planning to be here. Just give her a couple minutes.
Yeah, we can go ahead
Okay.
and table item of business 1 till a little later. So we will start with item of business number 2, and that is to review some quotes for concrete repair to a couple areas of city streets.
We have discussed these 2 areas in town a couple of different times that have had some repair over the years, but have not held because of the trash truck traffic. And so for a more permanent repair, we have sought concrete bids to go to repair the entire span of the street across there. And I've included the map of the locations and then some photos from Friday of what the condition of those areas are right now. We reached out to concrete contractors, and you'll see that we received 2 bids that are included in your packet. One for Hardinger Construction for $46,052, and the other from Pueblo Concrete for $42,424. There's a little bit difference in the specs that you'll see on both of their bids. Hardinger's is 6 inches of concrete and Pueblo is 8 inches. So there is a little bit difference there, but the price difference for thicker concrete, Pueblo does have the lower bid. This can be funded through our capital improvement fund that has a current cash balance of $567,000.
Are they gonna cut these streets up gutter to gutter from
Yes.
one side to the other?
Yes.
Rather than just where the whole, the damaged part is?
Yes, and if you go look at them, they've been spray painted to give an extra
Right.
area. So it'll be the complete span, gutter to gutter, all the way across.
But are they, which one's good to do just half and half? I mean, they'll do the clear across the street,
Right.
but they're only gonna do half at a time.
Correct, so that traffic can still pass through there, and then the trash truck will still be able to access the dumpsters that are in both of those locations.
The one down here will be easier than going through.
Yeah,
Oh,
as you can see in
There already.
the map there, the one by the courthouse, we did 3-4 years ago now, and that remedied that area, but then where the truck pulls out past that concrete is starting to really get dug out. So this will take a little more on the north and the south of that concrete pad, but then all the way across, I guess I should point this way, to the east, to the curb and gutter.
So that's not gonna hurt the integrity of the concrete, while they do it half and half. I mean, it's not gonna, okay.
I think an extra expansion joint probably will hold it longer.
Yeah,
They'll tie into what's there already.
The M2.
They'll tie into it with rebar and stuff so that it shouldn't shift.
mhm.
Oh, okay.
We hope.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the 8-inch concrete myself, because you never know how heavy the trash truck's gonna be, and it's turning on top of that. That's true.
Well, but it really isn't, because you look on Hardinger's, they included the tax, and Pueblo didn't
We should not,
pay tax.
yeah.
But if you look at Hardinger's bid, he's got tax
Oh,
put on
you
that.
are correct. I overlooked that. That is my oversight. So without the sales tax, because you're correct, we would be tax exempt. Thank you for catching that. Their bid is 42,445. So very similar.
Couple
But you're
hundred
still
bucks.
getting the 6 inches of concrete
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, you're still
for the
using.
same money, more
You're
or
getting a
less.
rebar with
But-
Hardinger, so they're
Pardon?
putting half-inch rebar in instead of just wire mesh.
Oh,
Also
I
true.
missed that.
Who did we go for the one that's over there behind the courthouse now?
Who did we use for that? We sort of did it ourselves. And we called in some last minute reinforcements for help, because it proved to be a project beyond our scope of capability.
Do you know if we used the mesh or the rebar in that one?
I do not.
Wayne, I understand what you're saying about they're using one's using rebar, but the wire mesh is completely through it. The rebar's on 2-foot centers. The wire mesh goes completely through it.
Oh.
So that's something to consider.
So you're saying that the mat or the wire is stronger?
It's closer together than the rebar.
It's gonna be about probably a 1/4 inch in diameter, that wire,
4 inch, probably 4 inch squares
and
as opposed to 2 inch centers. But you're still getting 8 inches worth too.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of a consensus that this is something we need to do, because the asphalt's not holding up, it won't continue to hold up. Honestly, I trust both those companies as far as to give us a product that's gonna hold up. I mean, Pueblo's poured a lot of concrete around here, and it's all held up pretty well. And cost-wise, it's pretty dang close, it's just, you know, we need to decide,
Difference in thickness.
yeah. Well, and the other thing I guess I'd ask is that there is a difference in the square footage of each bid and how much it would cover.
Correct. I added up the calculations of what they each had, and, let me see. Pueblo was a little more square footage, 5,300 versus 4,200 by the calculations that were provided.
And that's not quite 20% more area, which, you know, I would say the more area we can cover, because it's not just in front of where they're turning in that's showing damage, there's somewhat of a run-up too,
Mhm.
so as wide as we can get them, I think is gonna help us in the long run.
I make a motion that we accept Pueblo's bid on concrete.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept Pueblo Concrete's bid for reinforcing 2 areas of city streets with concrete. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we'll move on to item of business number 3 for now, and that's dealing with the KDOT Transportation Alternatives Grant application. We just need to pass a resolution of support, I believe.
Correct. I informed you that we had submitted a concept paper for this grant application for connecting sidewalks here in the community. We're invited to submit the full application. That is due May 17th. And part of that submittal is they ask for a resolution of support from the governing body that you are okay with moving forward with this application to the KDOT Transportation Alternatives Program. You'll see in there some of the documents that I submitted with the concept paper, and then also about the program, and including the invitation memo that we received from KDOT. That memo indicated that we were eligible to receive the 20% match covered if awarded the grant. That's based on population and some other factors, so due to our smaller size, we potentially could have that 20% paid for, so this project could be completely paid for and no cost to the city. I've worked with PEC to get some design, engineering, and construction cost estimates. Because this is a federal program, there are more hoops to jump through as far as standards for construction, things like that. So you have to have engineering and design work done, especially for the ADA compliance on the ramps, all of those different things. So there is a significant cost built in there for that design work to be done in engineering. So you'll see that. I guess with that, that's kind of a real overview of the grant and what it's for, and I'll take any questions, but this resolution of support is needed as part of the application.
Council, any questions on that grant application or the resolution 2024-04, resolution in support of that application?
I don't mind the support, but what I do before, and I don't know if it's still in there or not, I forgot to look, but the sidewalks usually were the owners, the landowners' property. They're the ones that had to maintain it. Yes,
Right, and our city code briefly talks about sidewalks.
yes.
And prior to the tornado, that was the case, that it was the property owner's responsibility to maintain the sidewalks.
Right.
And the city had the ability to enforce some of that should the need arise. I would have to do some historical digging to see if that was something ever really pushed by the city, but I know there are other cities that do some cost match programs because it is very expensive. But you'll see by the pictures and as you're going around town, we have a lot of sidewalks to nowhere. And some across vacant lots, some where homes have been built, but they did put sidewalks back. And so this will just help to really add some connectivity through town to get all the way from the school, downtown, hospital, swimming pool, so that people that want to walk could really have a couple miles of trail basically through town, all on sidewalks and not be in the street.
Well,
Yeah.
I agree with that, but I remember there's been 2 explosions that this lady tripped on a sidewalk over by the big well, broke her glasses, skinned up her nose before the tornado.
Oh, okay.
Before the
I was saying, I hadn't heard about that yet.
No, they called in and they wanted to sue the city for not having that, and Fleener stepped in and fixed it because it was their property. And then there's been 2 more, I think. But that's what I'm saying, is that if it, if a trunk of a tree comes up and
Right.
and they're going to go back, is that our problem, or is that the landowner's problem?
I would have to review the ordinance again, but I believe it is the landowner's responsibility then to
Fix it.
maintain or fix. But I think, should a need like that arise,
It doesn't happen very often.
right, and where we have mostly newer sidewalks,
Yeah.
and fewer trees to pop
Oh, this is true.
them up, but, yeah.
Stacy, maybe you said something about it and I missed it. Explain that estimates are $120,000 each and for design and engineering and $50,000 per block for
Per block.
sidewalks.
That is just a rough estimate that they gave me to use for the grant purposes. We're working right now on a more detailed, itemized budget because that's something that they've asked for in the full application. So that was just the rough numbers they initially gave me for the first concept paper I submitted. So we're working on that right now, and by next week, I'll have.
$50,000 per block for sidewalks. Is that all the way around the block, where we're maybe doing one side?
One side
linear
span,
block.
one linear block, yeah. It is a much bigger price tag than I originally anticipated, but I think there's cushion in there.
A $200,000 cushion?
Yeah, it's a significant price tag.
Well, who cares?
But
They
again,
can find somebody else to
We
get
get
their
grant
stuff.
funding for
yes,
this
If we're,
project.
if we're awarded, it will be zero cost to the city, 100% covered by the grant.
and again, because it is a federally funded program, there
Right.
are additional regulations that have to be followed that
Yeah, can you get all that
it's not
stuff
like,
done
yeah.
that they were requesting?
There's
So,
Yeah.
what you're saying is there's more to it than hiring a contractor, so we want a sidewalk here 4 feet wide.
Yeah.
Down this block and go to the next one, and,
Yeah,
okay?
2007.
I'm gonna get the sidewalk.
Have we talked to the landowners yet?
not yet.
Whose land would go across?
I'm gonna start reaching out to them. The timeline of what comes first, do we wait to see if we get it before we even start having conversations, or do we start having some conversations in the event that we do get it? Cause I don't wanna either ruffle feathers or get hopes up either way. So I am gonna start having some conversations just to let people know there's really just a few yards this potentially could affect. And I know we talked before about, do we go right along the curb versus the more traditional kind of 10 feet, or I don't know how many feet it is up in the yard, and where some sidewalks have already been poured like that, some have been poured right along the curb. That's where some of that design and engineering will come into to help, because we also have water meters in some of those places, things like that. There's other infrastructure, fiber lines, so.
I think it's a great idea to, especially with the funding sources that are out there, and a lot of different groups I've been a part of over the last 17 years, walking trails has come up time after time after time, and then we'll go 2 or 3 years without talking about it, but then it'll kind of come up again, so I think there's definitely interest in the community to have something, like this.
Well, at this point, no commitment for any dollars from the city. If we get the grant, great. We're not gonna be out any money. If we don't get it, we just won't move forward with the project. Because we can't afford it on our own.
Well, I would make a motion to pass resolution 2024-04.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to pass resolution 2024-04, a resolution of support for a transportation alternatives program application and maintenance commitment for that grant program. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passed. All right, we will move back to agenda item of business number 1, and that will have us suspend the Greensburg City Council meeting and convene as the Land Bank Board to consider an application to purchase 504 East Wisconsin.
Attached is that application from Sarah, and she is here, so if you have any questions, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them. You'll see that this property, she's interested in it to build single-family home there. It is a 50 by 140 foot lot zoned R1B. I've also included the land bank policy and a map of where that's located. Typically lots for residential development have sold for $300, and they're working on plans to build a home on this property. Also required by policy is that upon approval by the governing body for the sale of this, it'll be advertised for 30 days before it's actually deeded over and the sale is executed. One thing to note about this is the last residential property we have at this time in the land bank, and I've included the list of the other 2 commercial properties that we have. And with that, I will open it for questions for me or for Sarah.
Land Bank Board, any comments or questions?
Okay, so this is the second property that they're applying for, correct?
Separate families.
Okay, different people, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The last name is the same?
Last name is the same.
Okay, that's what threw me.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'd just throw out that it's kind of a milestone occasion if this is our last residential property in the land bank. I also think it's a good sign that the program is working as intended and getting us some good housing, so I'd like to see us continue it. That's a discussion for another day. But for now, yeah, that's kind of why we have these.
I'm glad to see it go. That knocks our inventory way down. That is, hate to tell somebody we're out. I would make a motion that we approve the purchase of 504 East Wisconsin for $300.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed sale of 504 East Wisconsin for a sale price of $300. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sale approved. All right. We will, no further land bank business, I trust, for tonight.
Not
So
that I
we will adjourn this meeting of the Greensburg Land Bank Board and reconvene as the city council. And we are now done with our items of business tonight, and we will move on to city staff reports. Stacy.
Just a minute, let me get there, sorry. An update on the water permit at the airport. I had an update from Lochner on April 18th that they had heard back from the state office that our permit was the next 10 in line to be reviewed, and they hoped that in the next 30 days they would begin work on that. So we are now at the top of the queue, so to speak. So stay tuned. Hopefully in the next month or two we'll have some movement there. So glad to hear something that's moving. So KPP continues to move forward with the PACE solar project application, and they keep getting requests from USDA for more information. They have received completed easement agreements from all the cities that are participating that you similarly approved couple months ago, I think it was. And so they're working through all of those different asks that USDA presents towards this project. They have not officially received the green light to move forward with construction yet, but it keeps moving that way. So KPP is asked to be on the July 1st agenda to come, and they'll give more updates, and hopefully, I would assume by then we'll have an announcement to make that's more solid. One change that has happened is now there are just 7 member cities that will have solar sites instead of the 9. 2 of the cities initially that were on the list have ran into some siting challenges, finding locations to put them, and so they have at this time backed out of the application. So it's just 7 cities moving forward. The plan is still to build the 20 megawatt total generation, but to allocate, I think it was a 1 meg and 2.5 were the 2 that dropped out. So to allocate those megawatts to other projects. Staff from Kennedy McKee were here the week of April 22nd and performed our 2023 audit. Everything went smoothly and they didn't find any issues. I'm starting to work on preliminary work for the 2025 budget, and so we'll be thinking about that over the next month or so. Next week I'll be participating in one of the webinars that the state puts on every year and get updates on things that have changed as far as legislation regarding municipal budgets. We have hired swimming pool staff management. Brad Lingefelter and Casey Copeland will be managing. Brad is manager, Casey as assistant, and Brad has started working on hiring lifeguards. And we have several returners and then a few new ones, and so there'll be a good mix so far of what we've got. And the public works crew has been over there working on doing some painting and some other things, and then we'll be putting the shades up. We've got the water turned on in the building, and we'll be filling it up soon. And the first day that it opens is Memorial Day. I think that's Monday the 27th, if I remember correctly. Previously, I'd mentioned the Charge Up Kansas NEVI program that provides for nationally funded electric vehicle infrastructure charging, and they had identified Greensburg to Mullinville as a priority area. KDOT has released the RFPs asking for proposals to build out EV charging infrastructure in quite a few areas around the state, and ours being one. One thing that they did change previously in their application was to have shelter and restrooms 24/7 and at least 16 or 18 hours of food available. And in rural communities, that's just not something that is achievable, and so they have reduced that to 15 hours per day as the minimum for restrooms and food. So I'm working to make connections with potential businesses for this application if there's interest. The city wouldn't actually own or operate any of it. We would not have any of the, other than electric sales, would not really have anything as far as maintenance to do with that, where I'm just helping to make some introductions with a company that's interested in installing and running a facility like that with some local business owners. So I'm working on putting some people together there. On Friday, April 26th, Senator Marshall visited Greensburg and had a couple of different community meetings. One was out at BTI with different leaders from all around the county. And then he came here and met with people in the electric industry, most specifically electric co-ops, Sunflower, Victory, Midwest Energy. And then Colin Hansen from KPP was here, and myself to represent municipal utilities. And talked about some of the challenges as far as energy here in this part of the country. So it was good to have him visit us. And this is Public Service Recognition Week, so I would like to thank all of you for your service to our community and the public service that you provide, and also thank all of the city team and their daily efforts to serve our community.
Questions for Stacy? Well, hearing none, we will move on to governing body comments.
We've made some street repairs here lately.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like they have kind of got it figured out. Seem to be cutting the street rather than just using
Mm-hmm.
the rough edges of the hole,
Mm-hmm.
packing it in
Mm-hmm.
with their new
Plate
plate packer.
compactor, yes.
That looks pretty good though.
It does. I like the way they cut the hole out, frame it out. It looks nice. I would like to see them do something with that deal at Greensburg Farm Supply like I've asked about a couple times.
I'll make sure it's,
Yeah. That needs to be dug out.
yeah.
Because that is right in front of the business, and that is the city's mess. We made that.
Other governing body comments? Well, hearing no further governing body comments, we do have an executive session scheduled tonight, 10 minutes for matters of non-elected personnel.
I'd make a motion to go into executive session for non-elected personnel till 6:38.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to go into executive session until 6:38. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are in executive session.
Which is 40, so we have some travel time.
I can make it.
Okay.
Yes, I really like your report.
are back in open session with no action taken. And that brings us to the end of our agenda tonight, and we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you for your time, everybody.